Union leaders and GM representatives negotiated for 25 straight hours before the walkout at 10 o'clock this morning. 1,700 workers on the day shift, part of almost 4,000 now on strike, walked out under the watchful eye of a General Motors photographer stationed on the roof of the GM plant. Most of the workers I talked with said they were prepared to stay out as long as it takes, but some told me they expect to be back to work in 4 days.
They told us to report back Tuesday morning, 6 o'clock.
Why is that?
Well, just they're hitting several plants at one time, see, and that way this fire scheduling up more than anything else.
In other words, it's slow down rather than their
That's right.
full-fledged walkout.
Yeah, they've already informed all of us to come back Tuesday morning, 6 o'clock. Be off today and Monday. That was our idea all along, to do that.
Are you prepared to stay out longer than that if necessary?
If necessary.
The president of the United Auto Workers Local 276, James Thornell, says he hopes it can be settled earlier than that, but that Tuesday may be too soon.
And if they know they're going to be back to work Tuesday, you got something that I don't know, because all we know at this time is that our plant is on strike, and come 9 o'clock in the morning, we're going back into negotiations to try to resolve the problems.
Is there any one particular issue that there's a big hang-up on, or is it a combination of some?
Only one issue.
Only one issue. At the present time, it's production standards, which is better known to the public as overwork conditions.
The international UAW representative, Charles Bruising, says GM management is not responsive to the union's grievances, and that's the reason negotiations have not been productive. Each day the strike continues, it costs General Motors in the neighborhood of $1 million or more. Jim Green, Channel 8 News on the Move at the GM plant in Arlington.
I think people have their minds pretty much made up within the first few days of any campaign, and the rest of it's just here and there. I picked up more points in the last 10 days than any candidate except Truman, and I was still a hell of a ways short.
The concept they have is to have child care where parents do and provide the share they can to help pay for them. And in that respect, I think it's very good. I also would like to see people that are on welfare form their own little child care communities. Let's just suppose that 3 working mothers, unwed mothers, live out here, that they would take turns, and one of the mothers would look after the children and let the other mothers work, and then the next day they would rotate turns, and each of them would do day work and help out. Because if a person works, they can have self-respect, and they're going to do more to raise their children.
I have 5 brothers, 5 sisters.
What position are you in that group of 10?
I'm number 8.
Did anybody else play sports before you?
No, I was the first one to participate in sports.
You feel that had your older brothers, what I'm trying to ask, was anybody any better than you in the Collins family?
Well, that's kind of hard to say since they didn't participate, but they were all good athletes, natural athletes. But, they didn't have a chance to develop it or to participate, so it's kind of hard to say.
Times, I bet, even though perhaps there was not, in my case anyway, when I was growing up, there wasn't a lot of food on the table, but we had fun because we had a big family. How about yourself?
Yeah, we didn't have the problem with the food. We were raised on a farm, and we always had plenty of good grub. But, there were things to do that required time, and playing football took a lot of time away, after school and things that when you had to come home and things you had to get done. So they weren't allowed to participate in sports.
They have a very experienced defensive club, and I'll be faced with Ron McDowell, who's about a 10-year veteran, and he's a very experienced ball player, such as the whole defensive club.
Of course, the television camera follows the football more than anything else. What's going on between you and this fellow? What are the little intricacies that only you will know about after the game's over?
Well, Usually, we always have a few things going. Of course, the defensive guy tried to defeat the offensive lineman, every chance he gets. And after the game is over, we usually go up to each other and say a few nice gestures to each other, and I think kind of make things interesting for the next meet, So it's a lot of fun.
Ron, Sunday, your most productive day as a Cowboy, was it not?
Yes, it was for the active season. I really was pleased with my performance, passing game, but not for blocking, and I've really got to work on that real hard. But we won the game. We won it against a real tough Baltimore team, and we got a real tough game coming up this week with the Washington Redskins, and I'm really looking forward to a very, very exciting game, and be my first encounter with the Redskins personally.
Do you think your game plan might be similar to the one you used against Baltimore?
No, not at all. They have entirely different personnel on defense, and they have different type of schemes as far as covering the passes and also protecting against the run, and so we have entirely different pass patterns and also running plays.
Some 400 steers went on the auction block this morning at the state fair. Experts in the field call it the greatest steer show in the history of the fair, as 4-H members and future farmers of America parted with their forfeited friends in exchange for cold, hard cash. Buyers decked out in red kerchiefs competed for the livestock, but nobody got quite as carried away as one buyer did last year by paying $9,100 for the grand champion. This year, Jim Dyer of Fort Davis sold his 1,220-pound Charolais Angus for a mere $5,000. The Tom Thumb grocery chain paid that tab, but Corky Evans told me that they would have been willing to go to any price to get the champ for promotional purposes. I asked Jim what the money would go for.
Well, I was going to use it to go to college on. I'm a freshman. I'm going to go ahead and use the money to finish college on all I can.
Are you going into ranching to raise these animals?
Well, I'd like to. That's what I'd like to do.
Is this your sister?
Yes, ma'am.
Jamie, did you help raise this animal?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you look just a little bit sad. Are you sorry to see it go?
Yes, ma'am.
He's going to share the money with you, of course.
Mm-hmm.
An expert mathematician just figured out that this beef on the hoof costs some $4.25 a pound. Take heart, housewives, everybody's paying high prices. For Channel 8 News on the Move, this is Judy Hanna at the State Fair. What do you think?
Most people only break bread together and drink wine in church during communion. But this old church breaks with that tradition. It serves fondue. What used to be the Luther Memorial Church on Cole and Armstrong is now a restaurant. And tomorrow night it opens its doors, specializing in gourmet pastries, Swiss fondue, and a plentiful stock of wine and drinks. Some of the older neighbors complain that it's sacrilegious, but manager Buddy Peacock just shrugs them off. He says the church hasn't been a real church since the 1940s. Since then, it's been used as a flower shop, an antique store, and an artist studio. But the diverse inhabitants haven't really changed the old church much. It looks the same on the outside. And inside, it still has the same rough beams put up back in 1909. Of course, a bar has replaced the old pulpit, but the owners say they're trying to keep the church atmosphere. Wood carvings dating back to territorial Oklahoma loom toward the ceiling, and stained glass windows hide the dining nooks on the second floor. The developers are hoping that the restaurant's combination of history and unique menu will keep the old church in business. The only thing religious about this old church is its name. You won't be hearing any lofty sermons from this pulpit. However, you will be subjected to some very conservative rock music. Martha McIntyre, Channel 8 News on the Move.
Have an extra microphone here. Don't know that you got enough.
It takes 4 times the work of Boeing for them to build. Happens that November the 7th is coming, and naturally I would hope that come right this minute. I don't. That in the future the government is going to have to either provide loans or guarantees. We are already doing this to some extent in research.
I feel that we lost a great asset to our team in losing Kent Marshall. He was a real fine quarterback and a real fine leader. Stepping in, I felt like I had a lot of confidence in the team that we could drive the ball and maintain scores from our offense. Stepping in, I told the offense that we wanted to take this ball down and drive the first time we got in there, and we did. We consistently drove the ball on their defense, which was a tough defense. They had a lot of quickness, speed, and a lot of aggressiveness.
You came out throwing on the second play, I believe. Do you like to throw the ball a little bit more? Do you think TCU will be throwing a little bit more now?
I don't know that we'll be throwing anymore. We'll, I guess, throw our share of passes. We'll pick on a certain weakness in their defense and try to capitalize on it and maybe break one on them as far as passing goes.
Change back to custom. Number 11, here's number 12. 40 followed, and that's a gun, 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 40 a gun, Vic's Continental Restaurant,
The procession began about 10:30 this morning near the housing area where Brown was shot to death a week ago. Leading the way was a mule-drawn wagon which contained the casket, and for some in the crowd, emotions ran high. The wagon had rolled but a few feet when a scuffle broke out among several marchers as people tried to crowd around the wagon. It made little difference that Brown had a police record. For these people, the death was just another example of police brutality. But it was the police who cleared the way for the procession, which drew a crowd estimated by authorities about 350. The goal of the procession was City Hall, although police earlier had told march leaders they would not be allowed to march into the downtown area today. Any other day would be fine, but not today. A few blocks from downtown, the procession was confronted by the first police barricade at Harwood and Beaumont. Assistant Chief Paul Townsend pleaded with Al Lipscomb and other march leaders to turn back. They refused. So the police retreated to their main line of defense at Harwood and Gano, and a potentially explosive situation quickly developed as the crowd pressed up to the lines formed by the Dallas Tactical Squad. But trouble was averted, partly through the arrival of Reverend Ralph Abernathy, head of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, who flew into Dallas especially for the occasion, but mostly through a change in police strategy. Rather than risk a battle with the marchers, police decided to let them continue to City Hall. So the march headed into the downtown area without further incident. Abernathy called it a victory for nonviolence, and local leaders said they'd continue to march every day until the policeman who shot Brown is removed from the force. But by this time, the principle of the march on City Hall was more important than the funeral procession, and the casket and the mule-drawn wagon were left behind. Jack Hill, Channel 8 News on the Move.
Are you disappointed you couldn't fly this bird today?
I got all my flying suits over there and helmet and G-suit. But I'll come back after the election and fly.
Are you impressed with it?
Oh, very. I've been trying to steal a ride in this airplane ever since it came out, and I nearly had one day, but the commander at Luke Field caught me and wouldn't let me go.
Would you make a recommendation to the Armed Services Committee, say, to contract this?
I'll write a little letter when I get back. Don't worry about that. I've been a friend of this airplane. So we trained at Luke Air Force Base in it and had one accident, and that was because the boy just forgot what he was doing. It's, I guess, the safest airplane we've had in the inventory yet.
Yes, I hope so. A lot of them come kind of reluctantly, and we've talked to over 100 groups this year, and a lot of them say that's the first time it ever made sense to me. They're sick of getting hit over the head. They never understood the bra burners or the women in paratrooper boots, and they realize that we are not out to do men in. We're all in this together.
Come on. Hey, brother man, don't do that to us, please. Molly, you don't do that, man. All right. Hey, come on, man. Say, don't do that, Johnny.
Mrs. Brown.
Who got to fight among themselves.
yours as well, as close as the election.
I think twice. Yeah, I don't mean anything else. Well, you know, if you've got anything to you don't really want to touch it. But, on my own any marriage or anything, one, I brought in.
The announcement of the independent investigation was made by Assistant Police Chief William Fulgham and Sidney Stahl, chairman of the Dallas Community Relations Commission, and they admitted the investigation was prompted by yesterday's protest march on City Hall. According to Stahl, the investigation will be conducted by a committee which will include commission members as well as representatives of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and the Dallas Police Department.
We've told the police department that we're going to be like the old umpire and going to call it as we see it. And at the conclusion of the investigation, we're going to issue a written report, and we'll make it public. And hopefully that report will be the unanimous agreement of everyone on the committee.
I think it's no more than right for our office, you know, to let's give them a chance to see what the investigation is going to be about.
Oh, definitely, right.
Why?
Well, because it would be very difficult for the police to investigate a policeman and be objective about their findings.
How many people will be on this committee?
Quite a bit. And I'm certainly impressed by it.
Right in the middle, but just glad to see it didn't turn out that way.
Same here. This is a first for me. And I
lost control of the crowd for a few moments. Well, just before Dr. Abernathy arrived, I think, in fact, we were going too fast. Miles or so, maybe a little longer than that, but about 4 miles. Oh, well, definitely I agree that an investigation is called for, and the only drawback I would have would be if
What a ham, what a ham.
Yes, it is. This is a dehydrated product where this happens to be a freeze-dried product. Okay. As I've already said, that all of our packaging is combustible, and by the way, this tastes just absolutely great. Could you try?
So that when they do rehydrate,
Would you like that?
the yield is fried. It took us about 10 minutes to rehydrate it.
It's real good.
If you'd like to have that as an appetizer.
About 3.5 million people will have attended the fair this year by the time it closes tonight. And like everyone else crowding onto the fairgrounds today, I took last-minute advantage of the fun. The fair come to a close today, but like everyone else, I'm going to try to get in this last ride of the fair.
With the announcement of the independent investigation, Al Lipscomb of the South Dallas Information Center said no more protest marches over the police shootings were necessary, at least not for a while. A second response to the independent investigation came from another of yesterday's march leaders, George Holland, head of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in Dallas, who also reacted positively. Holland also said the SCLC had decided not to hold another protest march today, although he would not rule out the possibility of other marches later on. Jack Hill, Channel 8 News on the Move.
The AWRT, American Women in Radio and Television, discussed their problems during their final business meeting at the Sheraton Hotel in Fort Worth today. One of the major topics was a job referral system to put qualified women back into broadcasting who may have been laid off during recent economic cutbacks. The president of AWRT, Rose Kemp, proposes local chapters of the organization coordinate existing referral systems nationwide. Beyond that, Mrs. Kemp told me that AWRT has continual management and other training programs for their members.
I believe that women should advance to their capabilities, but they have to make themselves do it. They have to become qualified, which is one reason why we're concerned with management training for women. It's a difficult thing for a woman to work and acquire the kind of training that enables her to advance, just as it is for a man.
Mrs. Kemp is the vice president of a successful broadcast college in Los Angeles. She says that women still face